they're building a fake sense of intimacy through texting.
Did you make this up or is it?
No, I didn't make this up. It's come straight from the internet.
When something gets difficult, people run away. Yes. Oh, this person's crazy. They're not for me.
If they don't make a plan to see you within the first 72 hours of matching, they never will. Like, have we lost all the notion of like what true intimacy is?
All women want is you to take charge, take leadership, show some chivalry, but do it in a simple, kind way.
Welcome back to another episode of First Rounds of Me, a First Rounds of Media production. Today, we aren't just decoding modern dating, we're dragging it into the daylight. We're breaking down some of the most fascinating and frustrating dating theories out there, from the table theory to the 72-hour rule, while deep diving into the little things that ruin connection, overthinking, overtexting, and that thing where you swear someone's into you, but it turns out you just see them every day at your coffee shop. This episode might hurt a little bit, but it also will explain a lot. You ready to dive in?
I'm ready.
Have you ever heard, I'm going to go straight into it, of the proximity crush theory?
Did you make this up or is it?
No, I didn't make this up. It's come straight from the internet.
The proximity crush theory. Mm-hmm. You have a crush on someone that is closely around you.
Basically, it alludes to the fact that like if you see somebody, instead of actually having chemistry with somebody and actually being attracted to them, because you see them on repetition so much, that could be like your barista or it could be your Pilates instructor, could whoever, because you see them over and over again, you start to go, am I attracted to this person? And then it kind of like brings up the notion of like, are we mistaking repetition for romance?
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
But now what if you are, does it matter if you actually attracted them the first time, but then you consistently see them?
And it builds attraction? Well, because it's just like, I think it feeds into something that we deal with in modern dating in general, right? Is like, you don't really know this person. Like it's very, like, for the most part, it's going to be very surface level interaction. Mm-hmm. The barista, g'day, how you going? How's your day? Maybe you have some like cute little inside jokes, but like you don't know anything about this person, right? And you're starting to fantasize and be like, oh my God, this could be my future husband.
I've had this happen to me.
Okay, explain to me.
F45. So
you would anyway.
Literally right before the pandemic, there was a new F45 instructor. She just moved from Arizona and she was very fit, very beautiful. Didn't know me. I didn't know her. Mm-hmm. I started to go to only her classes twice a week and, you know, say...
Who's this fucking weird dude?
Just say hello, right? And slowly start to talk to her more and more. I wasn't getting far at all. And then, you start to fantasize like, okay, I'm going to play this long card out so long and so perfectly that at some point it's going to be kismet and we're going to go out. We're going to go out for a drink. To the point where I would get to class and I would try and be the first person at class because I knew like the instructors were there alone setting up. So I'd get to class like 15 minutes early and in your head, you're thinking, oh, this is going to be the perfect opportunity for us to strike up a real conversation. That is not what happened. I would get there, she'd be setting up and I'd try and small talk and it would be awkward where she would just be like, why are you sitting next to me?
This dude?
And it started to get worse where I'm like, yeah, this is going to be my future wife. Like it's going to play out to the point where, this is going to sound so creepy, to the point where, so I knew her job. Like we had that conversation. I had a friend.
If you tell me you know where she lived.
No.
Continue.
I had a friend who worked at the same studio.
Okay.
And he had always asked me to come to the studio. So one day, I was there and I don't know how I had her number, but I texted her, hey, I'm at the studio. Like would love to catch up and see you. I went to her area, like she answered, I went to her area and it was again, super awkward. Like, why the fuck are you here? But definitely true.
Because, so there you go. So you're proof of concept
true, yeah.
The fact that it happens, right? And I think it happens to a lot of people and it's just this like, it's, to me, I ask the question, like, are we so connection starved, right, in this day and age that we romanticize casual eye contact and daily nods as signs of intimacy? Like, have we lost all the notion of, like, what true intimacy is? And I think maybe because of the combination of technology nowadays and because people are spending so much of, like, these relationships online, like, they'll match with somebody on a dating app and then they'll talk to them for months and months and months and build up this idealized version of them that they don't know how to interact with people in real life. So if they see someone that they mildly think is attractive, that kind of like ticks some of the boxes that go on, and then they start to build this fantasy, this relationship in their head based off of minute interactions.
Yeah, I think it's 100% accurate. I think it comes from porn and it comes from movies.
Porn, really?
Yeah, in porn you get guys look at this perfect curated story, right? Of you go to this workout and it's this beautiful instructor and then you strike up this romance and you end up sleeping together. Obviously porn is hugely exaggerated, but movies aren't. You look at, The Girl Next Door, that movie where this girl moves next door to you and she's so beautiful and old and mature and sexy, and over the long play, you're in that friend zone and then you fall in love. I think guys believe in that. And I totally agree that we are losing touch with intimacy and passion and true love and true connection because we're superficializing everything. And we're trying to force that. Again, my F45 story is a perfect example of, I had this really pretty instructor. Physically, yeah, like any guy would be like, yeah, that's my future wife. But that's any guy. You still have to kiss somebody and be compatible and have a conversation, have things that you have in common. You can't just be like, yeah, she's super hot, so that's my wife, and we're gonna have this great life together. Like, no, it's ridiculous.
She was probably, I can't speak for her, beautiful F45 lady, but I can only imagine she was like, who the fuck is this dude who keeps rocking up, he keeps trying to make small talk with me, hasn't made, he's not being intentional about anything he's really doing, he's just kind of creepily smiling at me.
I was trying to be intentional, but I was trying to force a connection.
That's the thing. She felt that energy of you were trying to force that connection. I'm sure there's so many times of it, and then I'm sure even in the service industry, it could probably be taken advantage of. Say for instance, someone goes to a bar regularly, right? They start falling in love with the bartender, and then the bartender can take advantage of that, getting bigger tips and kind of negotiating that entire realm. So I'm kind of glad she didn't take advantage of it in a sense. But yeah, so it's bunked. It's not debunked. It's a true thing. I
mean, in my opinion, I think it's very true.
I wholeheartedly agree. See, I didn't just make it up.
Very true.
All right, next one. Something called the delayed disappointment theory, but I also think it's very close to something called the table theory, and I shall explain both of them and why they are so similar. So the delayed disappointment theory is basically the longer you text before meeting, the more pressure builds and the more likely you are to be disappointed when you finally meet. So it's you're delaying the inevitable, right? And then the table theory is kind of you don't know anything until you've actually made eye contact and felt somebody in person. So you don't know if you like someone until they're sitting across from you. Body language, energy, presence matter more than anything a text or profile prompt could say. And obviously, First Rounds of Me ties incredibly heavily into those theories in a lot of ways. Because we've talked about the paradox of choice theory, talked about all of these different theories, but I think this one ties very specifically into First Rounds of Me because our entire ethos is to get people off of the apps and in real life, because that's the only way that you're ever going to be able to know if you actually like somebody or not. So do you think that people are, I feel like I know your answer to this, but do you think people are building fake intimacy through endless texting?
Do I think people are building fake intimacy through endless texting? Or I thought it was the longer you talk. What was the table theory?
The delayed disappointment theory. So the longer you text before meeting, the more the pressure builds and the more likely you are to be disappointed when you finally meet. So it is they're building a fake sense of intimacy through texting.
Yeah, obviously that's, what First Rounds of Me is built off of. And I think, it's 100% true in my mind, is that the more you text somebody, it's my F45 story magnified times 10, because at least with the F45 story, I was present with this person. I saw how they interacted. I saw their energy. I saw them physically. When it's paper, you're going to do that times 10. You're going to think, okay, this is how this person sounds. This is how this person's going to talk to me. This is this person's morals and values. This is this person's scent. This is how this person's going to be a great mother or father, right?
You get to make it all up.
You make it all up. And I think, when we say this right now, it sounds like we're exaggerating, but it's not. And that's the scary part, is that each day that you spend talking to somebody online, as those days increase, the odds of you connecting with that person drop significantly. And I think that's the whole problem with technology and with dating apps, is we try and people like to say, I'll meet somebody when I feel comfortable and I get to know them. And it's what does that mean? Do you feel comfortable? And I like to talk to them for 2 weeks, but till I get to know them. So you're getting to know somebody through a phone for 2 weeks is the exact opposite of getting to know them. You're getting to know a fake version of them. So then when you do meet them, you're meeting a totally different person, and it's not fair to you and it's not fair to them. So the way the world's going with technology and dating apps is just so scary to me, because part of love and part of intimacy and part of attraction is the first encounter with somebody. When you see them, like you said, when you lock eyes, when you hold hands, when you feel somebody say hello. Like somebody saying hello to you can tell you everything.
Yeah, or like the cadence at which they speak.
The cadence of yeah, exactly. So
do you think we're addicted to it? Do you think we're addicted to the fantasizing people and creating these fantasies around people? Because if we have that illusion of like, you match with somebody and talk to them for 3 weeks and you can basically build them up to be everything that you want them to be. And so we're addicted to that part of it.
I think that we're addicted to perfection, and we're also addicted to not getting rejected. So what I mean by that is you could talk to somebody for so long until you're in such a safe zone where you know, okay, I've gotten all my questions out and I'm going to meet this person and there's no way that they could reject me, which again is so untrue. And I think part of the fear of life for everybody is getting rejected. And when you meet somebody organically in real life, you can get rejected a lot quicker because, again, maybe those vibes are off and both of you realize that, and it's very overwhelming. And you're like, I don't want to get rejected. So you prolong this to the point where you're like, okay, this is going to be rejection proof, when it's the exact opposite. And you're just prolonging rejection. Delayed disappointment. And then the other point I was trying to make is like perfection. We're obsessed with perfection. So the more that you build somebody up in your head, again, the first point of contact usually through a dating app or through Instagram is a photo. So you're already super excited about this person's photo. So now you're curating this person's personality, this person's vibes on this photo, and it's going to be the perfect person to you. And we're obsessed with perfection. We watch Instagram, we watch movies, we see all these celebrities.
Highlight reels.
Yes, and we're obsessed with perfection. And perfection in a relationship is not true. And if you have a perfect relationship, or you think you're going to have a perfect relationship, you are going to be in for such a rude awakening, because no relationship is perfect. Every relationship has ups and downs and struggles and compromise and pushing each other forward, that if you end up in a perfect relationship, something is extremely off, and you'd probably have to try and get to the bottom of that.
Well, I think that feeds into the fact that like that you're not being authentic. If you're in a perfect, quote unquote, perfect relationship, if it's just like completely.
If you're in a perfect relationship, that means that you and that person are not pushing each other to be better.
That's what I'm saying.
You guys are both perfect, which who would want to be in a perfect relationship where, hey, I'm perfect the way I am, you're perfect the way you are. We're both happy with how perfect we each other are, that we're not going to push each other. I'm not going to push you in your career. I'm not going to push you emotionally. I'm not going to push you financially. We're just perfect. That is ridiculous.
I get so frustrated by it sometimes because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to be pushed, right? Like I think innately it is like particularly if you're like stubborn like you and I are, where you lock up a little bit. But I would wholeheartedly agree. One of the most beautiful things about our relationship is the fact that we're constantly pushing each other to be better. And it's not because we don't love who this other person is already. Like I love you the way that you are, and I know that you love me the way that I am, but you also go, I know that you could be better in that area. And I know that you want to be better in that area, and let me hold up a mirror to you. Let me help you in some way, shape or form. So I couldn't agree, but I think people don't even allow themselves to get to that part because it is uncomfortable, because it is perceived to not be perfect, or not to be a highlight, or not to be aesthetic. And so when they have to boil it down, it comes back down to them being vulnerable, and vulnerability is so scary nowadays.
Think about it this way. In today's cookie cutter, microwavable lifestyle that we live, when something gets difficult, people run away. Yes. Oh, this person's crazy, they're not for me. But what if we thought, okay, something in this relationship, it got tough. Maybe it got tough because this person cares about me so much that they're pushing me. And maybe if we get through this little hurdle, we're going to be in such a better spot. Like you said, before it even gets to there, we run away because it's not making us feel good in the moment.
No.
But maybe it's that person really cares about it, and they're pushing you to be so good that's making you so uncomfortable, and you're so insecure that you're like, I'm just going to run away.
Also leads into instant gratification as well.
Yeah.
People are so obsessed with like just being instantly pleased and instantly feeling good. People are so adverse to feeling uncomfortable in any way, shape or form nowadays in any facet of life that I think it's just highlighted so much within dating. So that one is true too.
I think so.
This is just our personal opinion. This one I found really interesting because obviously First Rounds of Me has a we know the time limit that we like, but there's a thing called the 72-hour rule. And it's a theory, right? So if they don't make a plan to see you within the first 72 hours of matching, texting, they never will. What are your thoughts on that? 72 hours, so that's 3 days, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is, again, built on one of First Rounds of Me's features. I think it can be extreme, you know. The reason why I'm not so in agreement with if they don't do it in 72 hours, they won't, is because maybe they're already committed to somebody else as far as trying to set up a physical date, and they're waiting to see how that one plays out. And if it doesn't happen, or if maybe enough time elapses, then they're going to move on to you. Because what if you're talking to two people and you have this really great date set up tomorrow, right? So you have a date set up tomorrow and you just match with somebody else. So now the first 24 hours, you're obviously not going to set up a date because you don't know how that first date's going to go. So you let that one play out, and then maybe that date goes really well. And you're like, I'm going to give this date a second date. And then you set that one up the next day. And then you're like, you know what, this person's not for me. But you just had that match with somebody. You are loosely talking to them because you're not in a relationship. So you are still, putting your feelers out there. And you think, okay, I had 2 dates with this woman. I gave her all my time and attention, but it didn't work out. I really like this person's profile, and our banter has been really good, and I'm not leading her on anymore. So I do want to commit to a date with her. Okay,
in that scenario then, because I don't wholly disagree with you, but I don't wholly agree with you.
Okay. In
that scenario, do you think it is, unless either gender, that person who is going on the date, right, who is matched with this person, who is going on this date and has this other person kind of quote unquote on the back burner or just like in the shadows, do you think they have an obligation to be able to sit there and say, hey, listen, I do really want to take you out. I want to be intentional about what's going on, but to be fully transparent, I'm going on a date with this person tomorrow? And to kind of like allude to what's going on, to like to show that there is like intention of like seeing what's happening, but do you think that's putting too much pressure on what's going on?
I think if you met these two people in person and you actually had a relationship with them and you knew them, yeah, you should always be as communicative as possible. But I also think there's overdoing it, right? So again, say you have 5 matches or 6 message. Are you actually going to tell 5 to 6 people, hey, I'm going on a date with somebody else? Just to give you full context and transparency, I am looking forward to going on a date with you, but I'm going to give this person their time first. I think it's over communicating, and it's making it even awkward in the opposite way, where it's like, okay, dude, I didn't really ask for this, and now I'm really curious about that date.
Yeah. Okay. So then that kind of leads into like how many people is too many people to be matching with on a dating app. Because like, say for instance, you are intentionally dating, right? And like you're using an app like First Rounds of Me where we encourage people to fill out the profiles really heavily so that because that first point of contact is setting up an actual date. So you don't have that time to be able to like talk with them back and forth, traditionally how traditional dating apps work. How many people do you actually send date requests out to then? Like, do you have to kind of monitor that to be able to be intentional about what you're doing? Because you might like different people's profiles for completely opposite reasons, right? And you're not playing into this whole like checklist thing. You're just going, this person looks really interesting. This person looks really interesting. I want to meet them in person. I'm going to send them a date request. How do you differentiate like how much intentionality you put into one person or the other?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're single, you're exploring your options and you're trying to find somebody.
Yes.
So I think what my perspective is, and when I was in the situation, there's 2 different buckets. When you're going the First Rounds of Me bucket, it means that you're actually intentional on all these people that you're going to match with, which is separate from a dopamine rush of validation and
like casting the net wide.
Yeah, trying to figure it out. So let's stick to the First Rounds on Me route. Yeah, when I was single, there was always about 3 to 5 people who I actually genuinely wanted to take out. And I think 3 to 5 is a good number for many different reasons. One, you do want to give each person actual physical time, and you don't want those connections to turn into a pen pal, or to turn into this perfection mindset that we said where it doesn't work. And each day that you talk, the odds of connecting or liking each other or meeting in person drop drastically. So me personally, I think it's 3 people per week. And I think you spread that out and you give each person a full day and a full date. And if that first date goes so well, you don't owe that person to not go on a date with somebody else, right? So you could still go on the date with the person you set up. If all three go well, that's amazing. You could actually, really figure out what you actually want and see how they differ. And I think 3 to 5 is the max. I would go with 3. Yeah.
I disagree with you, I think. I disagree with you in the sense, I mean, and this is just the way that I dated, right? Like when I was on dating apps, I would never, I mean, granted I wasn't on First Rounds. I mean, I think I would have really liked to because it would have shown me who was intentional about doing things rather than just like matching with me because I was a model or because I thought I was hot, right? Who was actually intentional about wanting to take me out on a date. But if I matched with somebody and they were like, let's go out on a date, then I wouldn't talk to anybody. I wouldn't even set up another date. I wouldn't think about another date. I would put, and it's not in the sense of like putting all my eggs in one basket. It's more so being like, I'm going to be intentional about the fact that this is like, I'm going to follow this path to see what happens. And if this path ends after the first date, no worries. The app is always there for me to be able to kind of go back on and to be intentional again and to repeat that process. And I'm always going to learn something from that one date. To me, I don't think people should be having 3 to 5 people around them at all time that they would possibly want to go on a date with. That's just my opinion.
So you think that you should...
I think that if someone's going to match with me, right? Or if say for instance, I meet somebody at a bar and they're like, let's exchange numbers.
No, but let's bring it back to an app because it's a little different. So,
well, I was talking about the 72-hour theory in general, but like, yeah, we'll talk about that after if you want to go straight to the app.
Yeah. So you're saying on an app, once one person confirmed the physical date with you, that was it for you until that date happened.
Yes.
Okay. So I get that, but what if you had matched with somebody the day before, the day after, and they asked you out?
Well, then that's a very unique. I mean,
but that's
no, hold up,
combining.
Hold up, yeah.
Traditional apps versus our.
I understand what you're saying, but it was very rare that people would ask you out instantaneously on any other app, right? And I think that was one of my bigger frustrations, and part of the reason why First Rounds with me was built because like that was that deep frustration, right? That very rarely happened. And if it did happen, then it was kind of like, who was more intentional about what they were doing and how they were doing it? Did I talk to one dude for like 3 weeks and then he was like, oh, we should go out on a date?
No.
Or was I talking to one person who like we matched and we talked back and forth for a little bit, like you, right? Let's just use you as an example. On our first date when we matched, I was talking to a couple of different people. Not one of them had set up a date. We were just talking. Hey, how's your day? Oh, yeah, good. How's your day? Blah, blah. Like just very casual, kind of cheeky conversation, but it was all good. We matched and you said, I think you're really beautiful. When can I take you out? And I said, oh, fuck, that's refreshing. And instead of me going, let me talk to all of these other 3, 5, 7, 8, 12 dudes who were talking to me on the app, let me focus my attention on this person because this person was intentional about what they were doing. He's a man with a plan. He's come to me with action. And I would much pursue that than even entertain these other 12 guys.
Okay. So let's, obviously, I love that. But I do think that one is too extreme.
Okay.
What if on the same day, 2 guys asked you on a date, different days?
That never happened.
But
no, I'm saying,
say that happened.
A, that never happened. But B, I suppose then that's when you go, and I suppose in a weird way it kind of comes down to more so like the information that you're given through profiles, right? So like,
exactly. So now
am I more attracted to this person? Do I like the prompts better from this person?
So now you're going into the weeds on the things that don't work. So now you have 2 dates.
Such a unique situation.
Is it or is it not?
Yeah.
So you have 2 dates on the same. You got 2 dates the same day on different days. On the same day, 2 people set up dates with you for different days.
Yes.
So now you're figuring out how to go on a date with them based on their profile.
So who filled out their profile the most?
No, everything's the same.
No,
just everything's the same. And my reasoning is you should go on both dates.
Okay.
Because you can get the real authentic person.
So in that scenario, if both people have given the same amount of effort when it comes to filling out that profile, have given the same amount of effort in terms of intention and planning the date, then yeah, I probably would give them but that's to me a very unique situation because, and then if you bring it down to like the context of First Rounds on me, that's where it starts to get a little bit trickier because every person on our app has to have that level of intention. Right? They have to. You have to fill out your profile properly. You have to be able to send an actual date request. And so that's where it really starts to get into it. And I agree with your theory of having multiple people.
Let me throw the curveball out there for you.
What?
Okay. So on Sunday, Jake asks you for a date on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
And now on Saturday, the Saturday before Sunday, you're talking to Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
And you and Kyle are having a great conversation. And once Jake asked you on the date, you were like, okay, I'm not talking to anybody else because Jake's asked me on a date. And now Kyle's asking you questions, but you're not responding because
I feel like you're getting incredibly granular here, and like it's
but it is granular.
Yeah, hold up. But there's very few people out there who are going to be having put in this exact position. I'm telling you my perspective, and you told me your perspective, which I think is really interesting. I think there's validity to both. I think what it boils down to, because we don't have a lot of time left, I actually agree with the 72-hour rule. I think that someone, if within the first 3 days, I personally think it should be sooner than that, should show intention of taking you out on a date. They should either ask you on a date, they should just ask you on a date. There should not be like an intent, we should ask me on a date within the first 72 hours. If you don't do that, then I have to kind of presume the fact that you're not serious about following through.
Very fair.
Do you agree?
I wholeheartedly agree.
Bunked. Do you have anything else to say on that before we leave?
No, I definitely agree that if you match with somebody, your intention should be to meet them in real life as quickly as possible. And if one of you puts that initiator or feeler out there and it's not received, then yeah, I'd raise my antennas.
Raise your antennas. All right, last one. This one is the plans are the new foreplay theory. So you know how I always tell you like the sexiest thing a man can have is a man with a plan?
Mm-hmm.
So there's an entire theory basically that planning now is intimacy. So a date request that is clear, timely, and thoughtful is more attractive than any pickup line that someone could say to you on a dating app, in real life, what have you. So do you think that effort is the new sexy?
100%.
Yeah.
I think it's so intentional, it's so confident, it's so chivalrous, and it's so easy. And sometimes we talk about like the bare minimum, right? Yeah, the bare minimum. No one wants the bare minimum. But there is some layer to that where the bare minimum actually is attractive, and it's showing, okay, all women want is you to take charge, take leadership, show some chivalry, but do it in a simple, kind way. And I think that's what the bare minimum means, is like, just take charge and like initiate in a simple way. I don't need you to like pay my bills. I don't need you to pay my gym membership. I don't need you to teach me the world. Like, no, I'm fine. You could take charge in a simple way, and that's the bare minimum. And I think it's the most attractive thing. And I think when it comes to dating in a heterosexual relationship, when a guy picks the drink time and place and sends it over to women, it's showing that he cares about this encounter and he cares about this meeting with this woman, and he values their time. And he's saying, I know that you're probably having a busy day, and I know that it takes time for you to get dressed and do your hair and do your makeup. Let me just alleviate all the stress for you and pick a drink time and place, and all you have to do is show up, and I'm going to pay for that date because I value that time that we spent together. And I think that's the bare minimum, and that's kind of one of the traditional things that carries weight still, because I think most women still appreciate and think that that's sexy.
Couldn't agree more. Do you think that's why you created the model of first rounds on me?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm all for equality. I think women are smarter than men. I'm for everything. But I do think that a man taking the lead in a date isn't a sense of superiority. It's a sense of like, I'm just going to do this because I want to show you how excited I am and how much I care about meeting you. And that's it.
I think everything you said is actually like an indication of emotional maturity. Like truly and utterly, for a man to be able to do something like that. It's like all of those things that you just acknowledge and that you said out loud. And the least I could do is like pick a drink, a time and a place and send it off to you and be like, I'm taking you here at this time. Be ready.
And it shows intentionality. It shows that there's no game here. There's no like, I don't know. What do you want to do? Oh, I don't know. And it's kind of like, well, why don't you know? Do you not know because you don't know where to go? Or do you not know because you don't want to go with me? Like, why don't you know? But when you do pick the drink time and place, it's like, he knows that he wants to go out with me, which is super sexy because I know that he didn't do this at the same time with somebody else because he's going to be with me.
Clarity, I think more so than anything, is the sexiest thing. Clarity and effort. And when you have those in combination with each other, and that's like, it's so easy to plug for.
Yeah, and I think like obviously we're in a heterosexual relationship, but I think whether you're in a gay relationship or, you know, any other relationship, when somebody takes the charge, no matter who it is, it's super attractive. And I think in a relationship, just one person has to be that person that's like, I'm just taking charge in what we're doing with plans. And I think it's a turn on.
Couldn't agree more, darling. Perfect way to end the podcast.
Love it.
Want to do that outro?
Thank you for listening. We appreciate you. Subscribe really helps us go a long way. Check out one of our past episodes, and we'll see you next time. Happy dating.
Happy dating.